Yes, there's a hair dryer.
Good evening, everyone. The Amity Board of Education special meeting for February 2nd, 2026 is called to order. Please silence your cell phones. I remind members, staff, and guests to respect the business nature of our meeting. Comments may be made only when recognized, and applause is appropriate only in recognition of an individual, a group honor, or special presentation. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 on the agenda is on page 3, approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12 meeting 2026? Motion by Megan and doing the second one. Any corrections, changes? If not, can we call a roll?
Ms. Cloud Ingram? She.
Mr. Grosso, do you see that?
Yep. Ms. Jacassi.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yep.
Ms. Jacquet? Can they hear me? I'll come back to them. Dr. Krudikaran?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladele?
Yes.
Ms. Rabuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schlenk?
Abstain.
Ms. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Can you just test the audio?
Ms. Jacquet?
How about now?
Okay, all set.
Ms. Jacquet, do you approve the minutes from last meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Cloud Ingram is not here right now.
She indicated she may be late.
Okay, all right, well, motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Go on to number 4. The full board will recess at this time to participate in a special Amity Finance Committee and Board of Education joint meeting. So with that, the chair calls a recess, and we do go into recess. I will pass the chairmanship to the chair of the Board of Finance at this point, and he will run the meeting since it's technically a Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul. So I call the Amity Finance Committee special meeting to order, and we will begin with the update on the superintendent's proposed 26-27 budget.
Finance Committee and the Board of Education. This is going to be sort of a budget update, kind of operating off of January 12th, when I first presented the budget to the Amity Finance Committee. The same budget was presented out to our 3 town finance committees, so we're sort of operating after all of that has happened. I am going to go through a little bit of background information as well, because I know members of the board haven't actually seen the budget yet, unless they were watching Amity Finance Committee meetings or coming to the town meetings. So just a quick background, we're sort of at the kind of second to the bottom bar at this point. We have essentially, as a district, built the budget. We've looked for as many cost savings and efficiencies as we could find. We have looked at ways that we can either perhaps defer some projects and ideas, or ways that we can shift money from one thing to another in order to lower the budget. I have been out to the boards of finance in all 3 towns and received feedback from from at least one of those towns specifically, but then of course I'm willing to listen to members of the AFC tonight representing their towns. And ultimately, the next step in the process is for the AFC to recommend a budget to the Board of Education. So our budget drivers, we do have a significant decline in debt service, and we'll talk about that and how it's really kind of helping to mitigate budget increases this year. We have our contractual salary increases, medical benefits, work that's built into our strategic plan that we want to continue to move forward with because we believe it improves our instructional programming for students, transportation, technology, special education, personnel requests. Our enrollment is increasing by 66 students. It's not enough to add any additional positions or say we need new teachers. As I said, when I was out at the towns, it's really different than the elementary districts. If you saw an increase of 66 students, you'd probably be looking at other classes within the grade levels, but for us, we just kind of absorb that. There are also some questions about unfunded state mandates. Those always come in July, right after the legislature's done, and then they say, hey, go do these 3 things, we're not paying you to do it. And then some uncertainty around state and federal revenue. Although we did at the end of last week start to get some updates coming out of the federal government for where we were going to see some increases in education funding, also where we would see some decreases. So that picture is starting to get maybe a little bit more clear at this point in time. So again, on January 12th, I presented to the AFC and subsequent boards of finance a budget increase that is 2.21% higher than where we currently are for this fiscal year. Again, sort of from a perspective standpoint, that is the lowest in the state, whether you're looking across all of the districts or just within DIRG-B. What this budget is supporting is going to be increased academic instructional time and choice through a revised middle school schedule. That will include an additional world language option, 8th grade electives, and then increased health and PE for our middle school students. The budget supporting the development of career pathways and increases in dual enrollment classes, including an education career pathway and a health sciences career pathway that will lead to certified nursing assistant certification. The budget supporting an additional opportunity for access to advanced and high school mathematics with a summer geometry class. So students who feel that they want to improve their chance to take AP Calculus and AP Statistics, the most advanced level math, before they graduate will have kind of a second on-ramp other than where they are placed in 7th grade. Of course, we have our contractual obligations to continue our excellence in academics, athletics, and the arts. The budget supports curriculum and instruction through a STEM instructional coach, continued dedication to curriculum writing and revision, and the implementation of that revised curriculum, and our ongoing work on high-quality instruction and professional learning. The budget supports the textbooks, both physical and online, that we need to instruct our students. It supports student activities, specifically funding for our newspaper, The Trident, which has always been self-funded, and then coaches into growing athletic programs, specifically tennis and girls wrestling. The budget supports pupil services, including a teacher for increased enrollment in our sales program, which is our program for our most cognitively impaired students. It includes special transportation, out-of-district placements, including any that are rolling up to us from the elementary schools, and specialized one-to-one support for some of our students. The budget supports a lot of technology, including student devices, classroom management software, the extra things we have to add for technology, our infrastructure, end of life, specialized lab replacements, security cameras and software, and the Promethean boards that we use in our teaching environments. The budget supports our annual furniture replacement that we allocate to each of our school principals. It supports some ongoing maintenance and repair to the high school, an art classroom modernization, repairing our sidewalks and our asphalt, the statutory HVAC inspections, and the budget begins to address the potential bond in 2027. So kind of going on to the issue of bonding, the debt service, as I mentioned, has a significant decrease. The two yellow columns at the very top represent the current fiscal year, and then the fiscal year 26-27 that we're preparing the budget for. We are looking hopefully to go out to bond, and we would start to see the impact of that bond rolling into the budgets beginning in 27-28. So that's why the green arrow is there, because the numbers that are on this chart may very well change following that bond referendum. In looking at the bond, and again, please know that this is very preliminary because we still need to bring all this information back to the facilities committee to get their feedback on what we are and aren't going to include. But sort of at the top of the list is HVAC replacement and roof replacement for the middle schools. We also are looking at the potential for including the library media center renovation into this bond. All of these things are reimbursable from the state up to a certain percentage. We are looking to upgrade the lighting at the middle schools for their stage, as well as the high school auditorium. Everybody's sort of transitioning over to LED lights and a more modern stage lighting. There are athletic field upgrades that are identified at both the middle school and at the high school. The high school specific to the baseball and the softball fields. And then we would like to, at the high school, replace the PA system and the lockdown system. If you remember, and if you've been reading the weekly updates, we're currently in the middle of that project at the middle schools. And so then we would like to transition that work to the high school as well. And then some locker replacement and floor repairs. So throughout this process, just so that our board and AFC knows what we have reduced, so that way you can sort of figure out how we've managed to get to this place. In September and November, when we had departmental requests come in, there were several things that we immediately reduced off the bat, either because the timing wasn't right, we didn't feel that we needed those because we had other ways to sort of address the issues that we were hoping to solve with these. The one that I will point out, because it does sometimes become a talking point, is the reduction of the Trumbull VOAG bus. So just from a historic perspective, and members of the board will remember this, we used to send our students from Amity to 2 different VOAG programs. If you lived in Orange, you went to Trumbull. If you lived in Bethany or Woodbridge, you went to Nonawag. It didn't seem appropriate that our children were being offered these sort of separate programs and couldn't take advantage of the same ag science program. So after considerable research, looking at what was offered at both of them, Amity designated Nonawag as our ag science program. So now all of our kids go to Nonawag, but we grandfathered in the students who were in Trumbull because we weren't going to take that away from them. We knew that over time that population would get smaller and smaller, and at this point we only will have 1 student attending Trumbull VOAG next year. 1 student is not worth the $48,000 to provide a bus. So there is another mechanism built into this, the state statute for how we will reimburse that family for the travel to Trumbull, but we were able to eliminate the Trumbull VOAG bus this year. In November through December, this is where we really looked and did kind of the line-by-line examination of the budget, where we were able to reduce redundant requests, or where we were able to look at requests and put them into a 5-year cycle. So say we aren't getting them this year, but we'll get them next year. We were also able to look at the historical use of some of these line items and make reductions in things like dues and fees. We identified some things to actually be put to the end of this year, specifically the tennis court repairs. We figure we're going to need to do those before tennis season, so it's gonna have to come from end of year money this year and not delay it until the 26-27 budget. In January, we started to get some additional information in, so we had both the oil and gas bids go out that we go in with the consortium with the town, so we were able to make adjustments in those prices. We were able to start to account for the out-of-district tuition, and if we saw that we were going to have students who were not going to be with us next year, we could eliminate the cost of their out-of-district placement. You'll remember we got a new copier contract and that saved the district some money. We're starting to account for the solar credits that are coming in for the project that we're part of up in Ansonia. And we were able to eliminate some duplicate technology. Where the biggest shifts came in January, that we did, after a conversation with Mr. Goodwin, reduce his request for the part-time athletic trainer. It was more valuable for him to maintain those 2 coaches for those growing programs than to have the part-time athletic trainer. I am also going to show a proposal where we are recommending to reassign a health and PE teacher from the high school to cover one of those middle school PE teacher requests. I will say the one piece of feedback that I received from the tours of the boards of finance was Woodbridge asked if I could potentially, while they were appreciative of the low 2.21% budget, they asked if there was some reconsideration to maybe not ask for quite so many new positions. And so this is in direct response to their hope that we would be able to look for other ways that we could accomplish the same new positions, but without hiring every single one I had asked for. We did have to add some additions. We added some rental fees in for portable lights for the Bethany parking lot for when they have kind of their large evenings with lots of families up there. It's a little dark over in that field. And we actually used to get the CEN line into Bethany for free, and then the state had to make some changes and told us we had to now pay for it, so we had to add some things in as well. So I just want to speak briefly about the impact of the reduction in the health and PE teacher, because it is a little bit of what's the you rob Peter to pay Paul kind of situation. So I just want to make sure that the board and AFC has a full understanding of this. Our graduation requirement currently for PE is you need to have 1.5 credits of PE and 1 full credit of health. The way that our health and PE is structured right now is in 9th grade, they get a 1/2 credit of health and a 1/2 credit of PE. Those run sort of opposite each other. In 10th and 11th grade, currently PE is offered for a full year. It occurs 2 times within the 4-day cycle, typically opposite the student's science lab, when we can get the schedule to work out, and that's most of the time. And that results in about 0.66 credits of PE that students earn in 10th grade and in 11th grade. So overall, because the way we're structuring it right now with the full year PE, opposite science, they're actually getting 1.82 credits of PE as part of what they are earning. What we are suggesting under the reduction proposal is that each year they would get the 0.5, the 1/2 credit of PE in 9, 10, and 11. And the way that that would occur is instead of being a full year class, the 10th and 11th PE would become a semester year class. They would meet 3 times over the 4-day cycle, and more than likely students would end up with a study hall that's opposite their science lab. But it would also give us opportunity in that time to put in some special education services or intervention services. So it's not necessarily going to be blank, it's just gonna open up some time for us to do some of the other things we do for kids. You can see if we make the reduction, the average class size based off of next year's enrollment would be about 25 students in PE classes for 9th grade, and 22 for the 10th and 11th grade PE classes, and about 25 students for 9th grade health. And you can see how that compares to the class enrollment in our current model. I can't really tell you what the 10th and 11th grade health is because those are electives, so it's sort of hard to tell because we're not really sure what kids are going to pick. But this is what the impact would be from shifting one of those health and PE teachers down to the middle school. Just a few budget drivers. Our contractual salaries are up 3.87%. Health insurance, we're currently estimating increases at 10%. We should have that number coming through in the next probably week or two. So then we'll be able to kind of really shore that one up while maintaining the 18% reserve. Transportation overall is up 8.3%. Special education transportation, which is different, goes up anywhere from about 7.5% to 15.5%. And then out-of-district tuition is ranging from about 4 to 14% increases. Personnel fiscal impact, as I mentioned, instead of requesting 2 health and PE teachers, this budget proposal does request 1 with the reassignment from the high school, which, as I said, necessitates some scheduling changes at the high school. 1 world language teacher that would be shared between the 2 middle schools. A contracted service to provide the CNA program. 1 special education teacher for our sales program. 1 STEM instructional coach, and then the 2 assistant coaches. When you, again, compare the budget request where it currently stands, which you can see, the cat's out of the bag, it's 1.54, to where the contractual increases are, that whole idea that the budget is coming in lower than the contractual increases shows that there is savings elsewhere in the budget because such a significant portion of our budget is driven by our contracts and our medical benefits for our personnel. So altogether, you can sort of see the history of the budget requests, but we have cut $830,000 from our initial requests that we started with in September. So as of right now, the budget being proposed is a 1.54% increase over the current year budget. You can see its impact on the 3 towns as individuals. Obviously, if we were the lowest at 2.21, we are now the even lowest at 1.54% in the state. And one of the things that I do look at, and again, I can't tell the towns what to do with the March credit, but I do know some of our towns take the money that they save in March and apply it to the increase that they're getting in the subsequent year. So you can see what the prior year March credit is and then what that variance is. And if towns are doing that, then you can sort of see where there may be that financial impact. You know, Woodbridge is relatively close between credit and what its variance is. Orange obviously is in the negative, so they'll get the credit plus their budget will go down. And then Bethany is the one that's still, the variance isn't quite matching up with the credit and has the most impact. Upcoming meetings, obviously here we are. We do have a meeting on February 9th, that's a regular AFC meeting. And it is possible, members of AFC, that if you are content with a 1.54, and I know some of your boards of finance have met again and will be meeting this week, you could vote to recommend the budget at the 9th meeting instead of waiting until the 23rd. If you don't do it at the 9th, we will have another one of these meetings on February 23rd. The board will need to approve a budget on March 9th, and then we'll have our public hearing, and then ultimately our referendum on May 5th. Before I go into questions from AFC, I actually received some questions in writing, and remember I said we'll put the questions together and we'll kind of draft up the document that anybody can refer to, but I thought it was a good chance to share those with the board right now. And so one of the questions was, what has been the impact of unleveling on middle school student performance? And so please bear in mind, this is only 1 year's worth of data, and so I can't really say that this is, we're seeing a whole bunch of trends or anything like that. But this is just comparing, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, those are the 4 performance levels that students can achieve when they take Smarter Balance. The graph on the left is 6th grade and the graph on the right is 7th grade. And you can see there's some shifts of students. I can't say if, some kids go up, some kids go down, but this is probably typical of what we would see. And we usually do see a small decrease in students meeting that 3-4 as we go from 6, 7 to 8. It's kind of part of the design of the test.
Is this number of students?
These are numbers of students. But what was more important, and board members will remember this, that our kids tend to perform very well. They score 3s and 4s, and the story doesn't lie in how many 3s and how many 4s we have. The board members will recall maybe that I said what we really wanted to look at was the growth of students, because that's really how much they improve by being with us. And one of the things that happened is that the students who perform the highest, so the level 4, actually made the most significant growth by being in the unlevel classes for that first year. And this is both in the percent of the target of growth that they achieved and the sheer number of students who were achieving their growth target. So again, 1 year's worth of data. Can't really say that there's a whole lot more I can interpret. It's just information that we have right now, and we'll look at it again after 2 years worth of data. We see the exact same kind of pattern in 8th grade. So, we do see a shift, I think, maybe between the 2s and the 3s as we look from grade 7 to grade 8 in terms of performance. But we see that exact same growth outcome with the students performing at the highest level. And obviously, there are anomalies, the level 1s who achieve so much in 23, 24 seems to be sort of an outlier of data. But that's where we are as of right now, that we're not really seeing a detrimental adverse effect to our most high performing students, which I think was one of the concerns that we had brought to our attention.
Can I ask one question? So I agree with what you're saying about those at the highest level of performance, and I realize it's 1 year of data, but this would imply that those kind of in the middle may be being harmed. Is that?
It could, or it just means we have to change how we're doing our instructional programming. And I think, and we have some, again, kind of with the middle school schedule, we have some other things that we're building in to continue to address those needs.
So Jen, can I ask, can you tell me, did you look at this year's 8th graders who are now experiencing the unleveling when last year they had leveling? Did you look at 7 and 8, how that's impacting?
So that's what the growth is it would look at where the student was in 7th grade and how they progressed to 8th grade. And so you're looking at what growth is for 8th graders across these.
Current 8th graders versus their performance as 7th graders last year.
So how I'm reading this is that 24, 25 is which year? I mean, I'm looking at, so our 8th graders now are 25, 26.
Correct.
Right.
So this is data from last year, right? Because they haven't taken S back for this year. So this is data from last year's 8th graders.
So we're not so we can't see what's happening to this year's 8th graders.
No, not
Okay.
until they take the Smarter Balance in May. That's why I said all we have is 1 year's worth of data.
Right, so we'll know how that looks until next year.
Right. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I guess my concern, or what I would want to continue to monitor, is and granted, I was not a board member last year, but this is just my observation from watching what all was presented, was the idea of unleveling was to kind of close the achievement gap, and if I'm interpreting this correctly, this may have actually expanded it.
So I think what it's done is the 3s and 4s are okay. We do have to look at what's happening for our students who achieve at the lowest level. But that doesn't necessarily rest just in the classroom setting, it's also how we provide intervention services or special education services, because that's where many of those students tend to also land.
What fraction of the people are in 1 and 2?
Shannon, do you know that? It's like, what percent are in 1 and 2? We just have to flip who's in 3 and 4.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, if we go back to the chart before, isn't that number of students?
Yeah, I mean, you can calculate that out, sort of.
So it's 27 and 72, right? Like
So roughly 100.
about 100 students here.
Out of the 400-ish that we tend to have.
And are you only looking at the SBACs?
It's the only thing that we really have. Well, so we can look at the Apple testing for world language. But the science isn't a good comparison because they take it in 5th grade and then they take it again in 8th grade. So we can't do that same type of analysis that we can do with Smarter Balance. And they're really, again, we need something that is valid and reliable. We are looking at data like how many kids get recommended to level 1, 2, and 3 classes in the high school when they go into English and social studies and science. Again, social studies and science haven't happened. That's still occurring next year, but we didn't really see any shift in the number of students who are recommended to their English level classes. So the Smarter Balance is going to be our most valid data point that we have to show if we're having an impact.
It just concerns me because kids that don't test well are not gonna,
Yeah.
that's gonna, so you might not see anything from them because if they don't test well,
Yes.
either way, you're not gonna know.
Yes.
More day-to-day, test to test.
Right.
If you see data shifts, are you going to consider putting levels back in?
Can you repeat your question louder?
If you see data shifts that are concerning, is there gonna be a consideration to reconsider and level?
I think if we have enough data that says that this is a horrible experiment, we'll have to look at that. But at the same time, part of this recommendation is because it is considered best practice across middle schools across the entire country. And it's about opening up that opportunity for students to move on into higher level classes without tracking them as an 11-year-old. So I think we'll have to have a philosophical debate around that when and if the time comes. But I was very surprised by the outcomes of this first set. And like I said, I think that the needs that we have in the 1s and the 2 performance, we're already talking about what we have to change. And some of that middle school schedule reconfiguration is going to help us to address some of that.
I just want to point out that maybe we are this graph on the left is exaggerating the issues. You look at the graph on the right, those numbers are really tiny. So I don't think we should overreact to what is going on in the left.
Yeah, and again, it's
But that's
the
out of
state-
72 kids, so it's.
No, I get that, but if you look at the numbers, 10 and 6 and 14, these are really tiny differences. So
Yes.
I don't know how to think
The
about it.
state has 2 ways of measuring this, and the one on the right is really true, that is actual kids. The other is kind of it's a
Because
numerical
that just makes it
calculation
look
of-
so big,
Yeah.
but it's really nothing. So I think we should interpret the graph on the right and say that directionally it's going okay.
One last question, this is looking at English, math, whether you want to call it leveled or tracked or whatever terminology you want to use. I realize it's apples and oranges in terms of subject, but because it's still tracked, is it what does that look like? Does that make sense?
We can certainly look at that, but I'll have to think of the best way to do that, because you have to look at where the kids, which track they're placed in, I think, before you can do this same type of comparison, and that in and of itself may already create
The differential.
a difference that you can't account for necessarily. So that's why this English honestly is like the one that's the cleanest, because math is already, could have some different performance based on which level they go into.
I have a couple suggestions as we continue to collect data and to look at this data. Looking at percent increase, like differences in the percent increase for kids that are at level 1, 2, 3, 4, like sort of trying to understand trajectories a bit better and comparing those trajectories, like current trajectories to like past trajectories. So do we see that 5 years ago, kids that were at level 2, you know, had a, I don't know, small percentage increase, and now we see like the increase is bigger, whatever score they get on the SBAC. The other thing I think just visually would be informative to look at is to look at this as a line graph, so as we collect data, so that we can see if those gaps are actually closing or are they widening. I don't think we have enough data to make any conclusions right now, but I think line graph and looking at trajectories and looking at like the percent increase among kids who like were in level 4 last time, right, versus level 1, I think those can, looking at the data that way can give us a better indication of sort of if gaps are widening or getting smaller.
Can I, just as
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Point of order. This is supposed to be a finance committee meeting.
But can I, that's what I was gonna explain as to what, so the reason I asked the question is that a bunch of people, not a bunch, FTEs were added to support this initiative. And so, again, this year, we're looking to add FTEs. And from a financial perspective, this is a people business that is 80% of the budget is driven by staff and their salaries and benefits. And so I just think there needs to be more, you know, we're doing this in order to impact this result. We need to then see the data for the accountability of, are we getting the results that we expected from the investment of people? And so that is why this is connected to a budget discussion.
In response to this in the budget, if we take away the positions, what happens to the scheduling change?
It wouldn't go forward. And so you know, and we can revisit the scheduling change, but for people who are familiar with the middle school schedule, there's a period called academic success, right? And it meets every day, 8th period, and all the kids are in academic success at the same time. What that means is that our resources to support intervention are stretched across the entire school, all at the same time. So one of the changes that the new middle school schedule does is it changes academic success to this win block. And the win block is different for every single team, which means that it occurs at a different time, so interventionists can access just a team instead of the entire school all at the same time. So that's, again, that's sort of one of those direct correlations of unlevel classes, okay, level 1 and 2 kids need support, this schedule change is responsive to that need. Okay? So there was a question about why we need an additional health and PE teacher, and if one person has that question, maybe others do. So right now in the current schedule, PE is taught every other day at the middle school, and opposite it are band, chorus, and Chinese. So kids get to pick one of those 3. And health, just because it sort of ties into the conversation, is part of the rounds, so the students get it for a quarter in 7th grade and a quarter for 8th grade. The class cap size by contract for PE is 35 students. There is no class cap size for band and chorus because it can be as big as the number of kids who want to participate. And the cap size for health and Mandarin is 22 students. Under the proposed schedule, band and chorus would be offered as either half or full year electives, giving the students more choice. Chinese would be offered as a full year elective, and if a student chose Chinese and or French, they do not have to take Spanish. And health and PE would become sort of a combined class that would be taught every day for a full year, just like math and ELA and science and social studies. But you still have the class cap size of 22 students in health classes. So what it's essentially doing is it's making health and PE like the other 4 academic areas, And in the other 4 academic areas, to meet the class size, you need 2 teachers of that content for each grade level. We currently have 2 PE teachers and a health teacher, so that's why you have to add a 4th teacher in order to make this proposed schedule work. Okay. Why has special education staff increased by over 40% when overall enrollment is flat to down? So the first, this is gonna take a couple slides to explain, but the first graph, I just wanna show what the special education enrollment has been from 17-18 to the anticipated 26-27. So I would say that special education enrollment is not flat or going down, it's actually going up, and it has been for quite some time. And this doesn't even factor in 504 students, because special ed is the one that's mandated by law. But we have seen a steady increase in the enrollment of special ed students, and that's not unusual. Every district across the state is seeing the same thing. Now, there are just kind of like 2 primary reasons why we have increased the number of special education staff. The first has been the creation of in-district programs so that we don't have to send students to out-of-district placements. In 1819, we created the Amity Transition Academy at Albertus Magnus College that services our students from, at that point, 18 to 21 years old. In 2021, we redesigned our sales program to make sure that it had a behavioral therapy component to it. In 21-22, we created the ATA program at UNH. That was driven in part because state statute changed at that point in time, and it essentially added an additional 1 to 1.5 years to the time students would spend with us in the district. We have to now maintain them until the end of the school year in which they turn 22 years old. In 21-22, we also created our Spartan Prep program at the middle school, and then the following year, that program was created at the high school as students matriculated onwards. So we have created 5 in-district programs over the course of the past sort of, 8 years. That is a big reason why we have the additional staff. The second reason is that we reclassified staff out of grants into the operational budget or into the special education area. So we had 3 reading teachers who are regular education teachers who were providing IEP services for our special education students. That's kind of misaligned with expectations of the federal law. Special education teachers are supposed to provide special education services. And so as these reading teachers either moved on to new jobs or left the district, we hired special education teachers to replace the reading teachers. So we would be aligned with IDEA. We moved a school psych and an SLP from the grant to the operational budget. The reason why we did that is it then allowed us to get Medicaid reimbursement for the work that they do for students, so it actually allows us to bring money back into the district through the Medicaid billing. And then we did have a school engagement specialist who was part of ESSER money that slowly over the course of 3 years kind of came onto the operational budget. So those are the 2 main reasons why we see the increase in staffing. And then of course there's just like enrollment increases like the one we have this year with the sales program. This isn't
Could we get that in terms of numbers? What's the number of people in special ed?
That's what the last one was.
No, 40%. I'm just saying, what's the total?
I do not have that, but we can get that answered for you at some point.
Thank you.
So Mr. Brandt often shows this slide. I haven't really pulled it out yet, but he does a hypothetical where if the students in our in-district programs, if we transported them to the least expensive out-of-district program, what it would cost the district. So it's roughly about $3.7 million if these kids were going to out-of-district programs as opposed to staying in district. So there is some value, even though it does result in more personnel in creating in-district programs. What is accounting for the stable or rising cost of outplacement sped when in-district programs have returned or maintained students in the district? So the good news is you can actually see over time that the percentage and the real number of students going to out-of-district placements is going down, which is exactly the reason why we create in-district programs. So that's the good news. But the cost has gone up. In fact, the tuition rates for out-of-district placements increased significantly. I think right now, looking at the kids that we have, the average increase over their span with us is about 11% each year. Their tuition will go up, and it varies kid to kid. Special transportation costs also increase more than the regular transportation costs that was on our budget driver slide before. And 59% of our out-of-district students are actually placed by another district. So they come to us already with an out-of-district placement. We didn't get a say in it, we didn't get a choice. They just show up on our doorstep and they're already in an out-of-district placement. On the right-hand side, these are actual real students that we have. And this has been the increase in their tuition from the first year that they were with us in Amity to where we're budgeting them for 26-27. So you can see there's variability amongst these kids, but some of these costs, like I said, go up significantly depending on the program that the student is in. There is a ton of legislation. Like if you want to get involved, this is a great one. There is a ton of legislation out there trying to cap out-of-district tuition, trying to limit how much these places are charging us and how much they increase by, and also to give us more reimbursement as school districts. So if there's a place for advocacy and it has a direct impact on the budget, this is a good one. We advocate for it as superintendents. Mr. Brandt does it as a pupil services director, but it is a real need across the state, and we recognize that. The other sort of thing, and I will make sure you have this slide because it's really tiny to read, but these are like real numbers, real kids and what their out-of-district placement costs run us. And I think that it's sometimes difficult to wrap heads around placements that are $170,000 or $240,000. They are appropriate for the students and for their needs, but they are a significant budget driver. And you can see sort of what we've budgeted for, what we think the real tuition is for the current year, and then what we're budgeting for next year. And I'm happy to share that in a more user-friendly format when we need to. Has Amity's 8 to 9 transition enrollment changed? Is it comparable to other Derby districts, and what makes Orange enrollment change more than Woodbridge and Bethany? So 3 questions all rolled into one, so you have 3 slides. So the first one is looking at the grade 8 to 9 enrollment, that's the black line, and very faintly you can see the trend line that is going with that. There's variability from year to year, and by the way, this is the percent change because counting real students doesn't always work because we can have bigger classes and smaller classes, so this is the percent change from one year to the next. Overall, from grade 8 to 9, we lose about 3.75% of our student body. The reason why I included grade 9 to 10 is that line is trending upward because we know from our experience that kids will go out of district and then it's not what they thought and then they come back to Amity. And so we see that change typically happen in our grade 9 to 10 transition. And that one's going up about 0.75. So in general, between those 2 years, we lose about 3% of our student body. How does this look compared to other Derby districts? So there we are, and we're kind of all over the place. This particular graph, I only looked back the past 4 years because it's not easy data to find and it's hard to sort of put together. So that's why it shows us at the 6% decrease because we had that sort of very big drop in 21-22. But if you look and figure we're in kind of the more 3%, we sort of shift over a bar or so. So we're not the best at maintaining our students. We're not getting more students. And again, Trumbull, I wouldn't be surprised. They're a VOAG center. They should be getting more students coming into their district. So, you know, there's a little bit more behind this. But I'd say, again, we're not falling outside of we're not an outlier when we look at our decrease in enrollment.
What's region 15?
Excuse me?
What's Region 15?
That's South.
South, Middlebury and
Southbury
Southbury.
Southbury,
Middlebury, Southbury.
Yeah. So what makes Orange enrollment change more than Woodbridge or Bethany? We don't have the information when the students go to private school placements, but we do have the information when they stay where we still have to transport them. And you can certainly see that Orange students opt for Platt Tech and VOAG in far greater numbers than Bethany and Woodbridge. I would suspect Platt Tech, there's a proximity piece to it that sort of drives it. And again, I mean, you hear me, I'm touting trades all the time, and I'm not surprised that people and students are going into trade fields. It's a very reasonable place to have a great occupation and a good future. And so to have a trade and technical school right there that's convenient, certainly I think is part of this. So this isn't the whole answer, but it's certainly one piece of what makes Orange look a little bit different than Woodbridge and Bethany. And so with that, that is the end of the presentation to AFC, answering some questions, but I am happy to entertain more questions at this time.
I have one last question.
Okay.
On the revenue side of the equation, what we're anticipating getting in special education grants is up almost 40% for next year. So I'm just curious, like, with the assumptions behind that and driving that, and how confident we feel about it, and if it doesn't materialize as expected, what our plan B might be.
Well, it's based on the actual students that Mr. Grant is budgeting for and what he expects their costs to be, and then we apply the state formula 4.5 times, what our threshold will be. We try to index that for what will be set next year. We don't know what that number is, and then I believe we were at 60% of that cost because we haven't been fully funded, so.
And if you dive into the details of that chart in very fine print, there was one very expensive student that was just added, and I'm sure that is part of what is driving that 40% increase.
Okay. That was just something that stood out as
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we could be in trouble if that doesn't show up as expected.
They raise their hands. You wanna
It's me.
You wanna take over this?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so I know there is a presentation for each of the towns of the budget by the superintendent. Do we have dates for that yet?
They all already happened, so I finished up my last one in Woodbridge last week, or this week, last week, it was last week. You know, I don't know if Mr. Nuzzo, I know Mr. Nuzzo will get some feedback from Orange on Friday. And I don't know if we have any feedback from Bethany, or you're still sort of processing and working on everything.
We're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so the towns will start to give some feedback this week.
Sorry, isn't there a forum before the referendum that's open to the public?
Yes, so in April, we have our public budget hearing, and so it's at that truly anybody can come and ask questions and speak about the budget.
Okay, and that's just at the Board of Ed meeting, not in each of the towns?
Correct, yes.
There is one in Orange.
Orange invites me to theirs, but the other two towns I don't go to because they figure Amity's public forum is appropriate.
Right.
And I don't know when the Orange one is.
I don't think we have a date yet.
Any other questions?
Jen,
I think I've actually asked this before, so I apologize, but your school engagement specialist, that's a full-time person?
Yes.
And
So she's a clinical social worker, and she works directly with the families of our students who are chronically absent. And really, she visits their home, she tries to come up with, she's part of our Student Attendance Review Board Committee, trying to come up with plans to get the students to come back into the district. Later this evening, when we go into the executive session, I have some data to share about that and why the program is being effective, so, yeah.
I guess I'll wait.
It'll be very appropriate then.
Okay.
Yeah, one point. My experience over our my last 6 years on the board has been that the administration, with your leadership, has brought to the board budgets that I think could be acceptable to almost any school district in the state because they were done extremely well, and we as board members felt that they provided top quality education for our students. Yet, no one was happy with them, and we asked to cut even more. I think as we do budgets, we can always find some cuts in the budgets. What the board here has done, though, and it's stated this over and over and over again, that cuts that are made should not be a negative for the education of our students. And this is the first time I've actually seen, and I'm referring to physical education now, where we've taken something away from students. I don't know how that fits in. I haven't had the opportunity to look at that. And that concerns me because it wasn't done for educational purposes, it was done for financial purposes, as far as I can tell. We haven't done that before. So I don't know where I am with that, but I think there needs to be a closer look as to how it impacts students. We've had students taking physical education, and I think you mentioned with the middle schools, we're now giving, at the request of many parents, more physical education. But taking physical education away from high school students, when that may be something that a lot of our high school students really feel they need, that's a concern. So just wanted to make that comment and examine it a little bit more carefully and see what it does to the students, how it impacts students as far as their physical education goes. For those of you who don't know, my wife taught physical education for more than 30 years at the high school. And I coached for 40 years of swimming, so physical education to me is an extremely important part of our curriculum. And we are living at a time now when the kids are spending more time sitting and doing nothing, working on computers. And I think it's important that we consider that and make sure that we maintain all areas of our high educational standards.
Paul, when are we going to have a conversation around the proposed middle school schedule, especially since we're asking for more positions? So I'd like to understand a little more about that, and the impact and the changes. For example, when you're talking about changing health from a quarter to a full year, and what does that look like, and what is the reasoning behind it?
Point of order, are we still in a finance
Yes.
meeting right now? It's
Yep.
an opportunity for questions and not comments to Dr.
Yep.
Byers, correct? So unless you had a question.
My point was that we're taking stuff away from the students for the purpose of reducing the budget. And that's why I said that.
Understood, unless there's time for comments.
Right, so I just want to understand when we are going to talk about the middle school budget. I mean, is it the middle school schedule, since there's going to be an impact on the budget?
Only from the
Now,
standpoint.
or is that another time?
No, but that is the middle school schedule.
Right.
Will impact the budget because it indeed requires additional positions.
Right, and we're talking
We
about.
take away those positions, we take away.
You're right, and to your point, we're talking about gym and health, and I'd like to understand how these decisions were made in addition to the request for another language, and I understand wanting to offer Mandarin and French instead of, for students who want to take Mandarin also are required to take Spanish. So I understand that, that makes complete sense. I'm just would like to understand a little more about
So we
changes.
So we presented in November, the middle school schedule as part of that very first round of budget presentations. We can resurrect that presentation again for the board, when the chair thinks it's an appropriate time. I'll defer to him as we make our board agendas. But we already have that presentation.
Right, it was given to us, not opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, so,
So I have many questions.
So I had a clarification about Paul's question. So the shift from 0.66 to 0.66 to 0.5 in the health, what does that mean in the number of hours that the students are going to be in physical?
I'll defer to somebody who knows the exact hours of 0.5 to 0.66.
I don't mean to ask it as a difficult question, but so that we can get a sense of the magnitude of what it is that we are talking in terms of student impact.
If somebody
It doesn't
can
have
jot
to
that
be
down,
now.
we'll get back to you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, but I think almost everyone would probably want to know that.
I know.
Just maybe to that question, it sounded like we're going from a full year meeting twice in the rotation
Yes,
to a semester meeting
3
three times in the rotation.
Yes.
So
We can do it's 1/6 of a course. I get that, but I'm just trying to think about what does it mean in terms of a
We
time.
can get the actual hours,
Approximately 18
18 hours.
18 hours less.
of difference, yes.
over the course of the school year?
School year.
Course of the year. It's going from
How
full year to
significant
half.
is that? Yeah, okay, great, so should we?
Chairman, one question. So, Dr. Byers, explain the reason why we are doing the middle school change of scheduling. Is it a mandate? Is it just following? Explain that.
We realized there were some shortcomings in the schedule, and it had a few complaints fairly regularly. One of them is that kids who wanted to take Mandarin also had to double up and take it with Spanish. Another was that kids who were not really musically inclined were constantly being pigeonholed into musical classes that they just couldn't stand. So we surveyed teachers, students, and parents and kind of took the themes that they brought back and really tried to build a schedule that met what they were hoping to see improvements. And the other thing is our schedule, it increases instructional time. So there's just a lot to teach kids, so anytime we can get more time face-to-face with them in classrooms. So it increases the instructional time. It does increase PE, which we had a feedback that they would like to have more PE for middle school students. It allows a choice in the world language, so now kids don't have to take 2, they can just pick 1. Put back some electives for 8th graders, so that way as they start to kind of go down the path of what they're interested in, they get a little bit more choice. And I can't make them not take music, but I can make it so they take less music if they aren't musically inclined. And then it gave us some more opportunities, like I said, to provide those intervention services. So ultimately, trying to fix things that we know are not working in our current schedule, and to do it as efficiently as we possibly could.
I mean, it all sounds very good that we're listening to our client base, which is what we should do. I mean, they are the clients of ours. And the ultimate goal would be to improve their high school performance and experience, and then move on to college and then life.
Yeah.
So it all sounds pretty good overall with the changes, so that's good.
My question is, there are other schools that allow students who are playing a sport to opt out of PE. Is that something that Amity does, or something we could consider instead of reducing PE for everybody, maybe only reducing it for the students who are taking a sport that semester?
That's probably a much bigger question to tackle at some point. And I do think that I don't know that that's an option to meet graduation requirements. Mr. Hausman and I were actually talking before, and there are schools that require far more PE credits to graduate. In those cases, they accept athletic activities, but I think that part of being able to do that is that they still meet the mandated graduation requirements of PE classes.
I have a question. So the PE and the health is combined?
Yes, so if I am a teacher, I will be teaching both PE and health to my group of kids. It just gets way into the weeds, but basically, for every 2 days of PE that we have, there would be 1 day of health.
So actually, they're getting 2 days of PE.
Yes.
So that's
So it's
even-
not health every day for a year, and it's not PE every day for a year, they're sort of together, but it's more heavily weighted to the PE side of it. The health part, there is so much we have to teach in health, and we keep adding things like, I think we talked at this board meeting about, talking to kids about body dysmorphia that comes from looking on cell phones and things like that, and all of this kind of gets lumped into health, so we could always probably use a little more time with health instruction, but the structure of the schedule will give them kind of more PE and a little bit more time in health, but mostly more PE.
So normally they get how many times they have PE in a week now?
Well, it's every other day right now, and so now it's.
So that could be 3 times 1 week, 2 times the next week, something like that?
Yes.
So the new schedule would be less PE because one of them's gonna be health.
No, it would be more PE.
It would be more.
Yes.
But it's also, it's more health, is that correct?
It's more of both.
Oh, okay.
So what's gonna happen is this current health teacher certified to teach?
Everybody's dual certified health and PE.
So so the current PE instructor is going to do some health and then, so health right now is a quarter?
Yes.
So right now, we're gonna go from a quarter every day to all year long?
No.
A third of the year.
You'll have, the health and PE are taught together, and so in a 4-day cycle, they will have PE twice and health once.
Right, no, I understand. I meant that is going to be in their schedule all year long.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so the second question is, with the new proposed schedule, did we, as a district, ask for feedback from both the parents and the students?
On the schedule that as we've proposed it?
Yes.
No, instead we built the schedule based on the feedback that they gave to us.
Do we not see value in perhaps presenting that to them and getting feedback?
I think until they actually experience it, it's hard to get that kind of feedback.
Oh, I heard rumblings.
Because it's sort of on paper. And so not being able not being able to understand sort of the pieces of how it goes together, I don't know that is, we can certainly do it, I don't know if it's helpful for us.
Well, it
could just be
valuable.
more confusing. Now, we do know that we have to share it with our parents and students at some point, so the principals and I have talked about that process, but
We get feedback then.
Right, I think feedback would be valuable because I'm not sure, I understand you requested feedback, but I'm not sure how we're building a schedule and how many parents and students actually gave feedback saying that they want more gym, or, I understand the language part.
Yeah.
And more health.
So we can figure out that through maybe your principals, groups, and PTSOs. That's a small enough group that you can explain it and get feedback simultaneously.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have seconded and all of us. Okay, very good. So we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll give you guys a couple minutes to get your stuff together.
Thank you for pulling all that. I know I tried to do the other districts' data. But I don't have their phone number, so.
No, it's on Ed's site, it's just, you have to do a little research to get there, so it's fine. It's good to have.
Sounds great. So,
Yeah.
Since we're
last
chatting.
time I did it. To give it there or to do this diagonal thing,
Our
you know.
district does
Yeah, just sign it.
data consistently.
Can I guys see it?
Other districts do not.
No, but that site, place I
Somebody that was close to you.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I was actually going to trying to find like their ADM
I took it
reports.
from that site.
She's got good family friends.
I automated it a little bit, but it was not easy. I figured out how to do the diagonal thing, because you have to do it in 8/9, like, you know.
I know, no, it's that you kind of,
Yeah, the plateau numbers were, because
That's,
that was my, I mean, totally, I knew that, but like, it was
Yeah.
good to be. So that was like, you know, why orange is always, 2012, it was
it's
always,
not like they can just,
so that was good. I think your audio questions were answered.
no, they were.
as long as that's a designated, it's not just like during gym, he's doing something, you know what I mean? Years ago, that's what they used to just go, oh yeah, yeah, you know? And then they would throw out a lesson in there or something.
So I knew that you asked, because we all had these issues.
The ORTC.
It was
Okay,
great.
we're-
You put in so much effort.
You're gonna have to share your tablet.
Yes, absolutely, no problem. Because I printed out the agenda so you could use it.
I usually do that too.
I have to start doing all kinds of
Too late, too late.
The board is back from recess, and we move on to number 5, the student report. On the other side now.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start with a brief update on what's happening at the high school. So one of the most significant events in the past month was the 8th grade open house, which was held on January 28th. And the high school welcomed current 8th graders and their families to campus to introduce them to the high school environment. So from the high school perspective, the jazz band, chamber orchestra, and honors choir performed for the visiting students, which kind of showcased the music program and gave them a taste of high school performances. Members of the National Honor Society provided tours of the building, which helped students explore the campus and see like classrooms, labs, and other key areas within the school. In addition, members of various clubs set up tables which allowed students to learn about extracurricular opportunities and get excited about getting involved once they actually get to the high school. And academically, the students completed midterm exams in late January, as many of you probably know. In terms of extracurriculars, 14 Amity students participated in the 52nd annual Yale Model UN Conference, which was a 4-day event that brought together students from several countries. And our students were represented in numerous committees and gained valuable experience in diplomacy and international issues. Additionally, our award-winning student newspaper, The Trident, has taken a really big step and added an online publication. So now they have a website, and it features current stories, archives of previous issues, interactive polls, and like contact information of the editors. So student engagement outside the classroom has been steadily developing. And this also includes like winter sports teams who have been actively competing in basketball, swimming, wrestling, and hockey. Starting with the alternative 8th graders perspective, students from both campuses recently attended the 8th grade open house and gave them a first-hand look at the opportunities available at the high school. Specifically at AMSB, students have been challenging themselves academically as well. Several 8th graders participated in the American Math competition this month, which allowed them to test their problem-solving skills and represent Amity as a team. They also had a grade-level presentation on the dangers of vaping by Miss Dahl, who was an outside speaker who has visited the school before. It was especially important for middle school students to help them understand that vaping products, which are often marketed to young people, aren't harmless and can have serious health consequences. At AMSO, the school recently hosted Elected Official Day on January 30th. So 13 state and local officials, along with members of the Board of Ed, visited the school to observe a typical day for students. So this had student ambassadors and tour guides, and they were able to highlight the wide variety of learning opportunities within the school. AMSB will be hosting its Elective Officials Day tomorrow on February 3rd. Finally, during the week of January 23rd, the 7th grade social studies students at AMSO participated in a workshop on West African drumming and jelly culture. So Ms. Pleasant from the Blues and Beyond led the interactive session, which introduced students to traditional West African instruments and teaching about the Mande people of Mali and Guinea. So this workshop is kind of an example of how our school is able to teach cultural awareness and empathy while providing some hands-on learning experiences.
Thank you. Thank you. Great job. Any questions? Appreciate it. We move on. Presentation of the high school library media center design plans. And we go to Silver Petrocelli.
So while Ms. Cleveland is getting up to the podium, just by way of explanation so that we all sort of understand why we're doing this, when we're doing this. Next week, we will be going to present all of our plans to the Department of Administrative Services. It's sort of part of that process we have to do in order to receive the grant funding for the project. Before we go to do that, we have to show evidence of both our building committee having seen this presentation, approved the plans, and ratified the minutes of that approval. The Board of Ed also has to have all of the same pieces in place. So tonight is the presentation. Hopefully you will approve the plans. At next Monday's meeting, you will hopefully approve the minutes so that we can bring them with us on Tuesday when we go to Department of Administrative Services. So timing is critical on this, but it is part of that process. And so I am going to turn it over to Amanda Cleveland for a very brief overview of where we are with the Library Media Center.
So thank you very much for allowing me to meet with you tonight. Some of you may have remembered the last meeting I was here was probably several months ago. But in terms of the Library Media Center, the overall goal was really to improve the student experience and to offer programming that was not previously offered. So the plan in front of you today, the overall goals, as you can see as you're coming down the hallway, is to really draw your eye to the Media Center. If you know the current one now, it's recessed back. Most people probably walk by it without seeing it, so we're bringing that entryway forward and really giving you that pathfinding. So as students are looking at their phones, they're going to see those arrows on the floor and hopefully take a right into the library. We're doing an indoor and an outdoor, so we're avoiding that cross traffic of having students crashing into each other as they come in. We're centralizing the Media Center desk so that they have clear view of the entry and exit points, as well as clear view of the entire library. Reorienting the stacks to have clear vision down the stacks to students taking volumes off the shelves, clear vision to the open table area, as well as adding in a glass partition and creating a quiet work zone so you can go and work at a movable desk with a tablet or research other volumes. We are relocating the workroom to the back upper left corner, and then we're adding in a podcasting and recording studio. We're also taking the entrance to the tech services out of the library and going through the hallway, and we're reorienting and redoing the furnishings within there. We are centralizing the server system so that they are no longer spread out between two different rooms. So we're compacting the HVAC system and really just making it a more user-friendly space. From a high level, just the pretty pictures. So these are our best representation of what the end result will be. So you can see we're using a lot of lettering, a lot of bright colors in order to reorient everyone's vision into the library space. We're introducing some display cases so that whether you're showing art programs, if you're showing literature for upcoming authors visiting the site, it is bringing that vision right into the hallway. As you come in the library, we're introducing some stacks as well as some display cases within there, but again, keeping them low so that you can still see who's coming in and going out. We are improving the acoustics. So number one problem that we have is that when it rains, it's very loud. Some people love the water feature, not everybody does. So we're going to improve the acoustics not only with treatments on the ceiling, but a lot of the light fixtures to improve the lighting are also acoustic light fixtures. So we're trying to have a dual purpose with what we're doing. You'll see the centralized desk. We are going to introduce a ticker as you come in. You probably saw it on the first rendering. But again, just giving that nice vision of everybody around the space. You'll see the columns. We're wrapping those again in acoustics because, again, just trying to control the sound so that you don't feel like you have to whisper. You need to be able to have a conversation and collaborate, but you want to do it in a way that's not disruptive to others. This is a good showing of how the stacks are oriented. Again, those acoustic fixtures on the ceiling. This is the vantage point, so you're seeing that there's a kiosk right at the entry. You're seeing the entry and exit, having a little bit of fun with the lighting, giving some display opportunity as you go up and down the aisleways. This is a vision of into that study area. So you'll see that it is mostly glass, but it is giving that sense of privacy, allowing the furniture to be movable. So if you're working in pods of 2 or 3, or if you're working solo, the furniture is such that you can move it and collaborate. So we have a couple different views. Again, acoustic light fixtures, just having a little bit of fun in the space. In the back, you'll see that there are windows into the workroom so that anybody in the back desk does still have supervision over the students in that space if for some reason the desk is vacant. In terms of costs, we wanted to do a pie chart just to give you an idea of where the costs are going, because right now a lot of the vision that you see in the renderings, it seems like it's a lot of fit and finish. But in terms of cost, you can see the biggest piece of it is demo and construction and the items that sort of go under that. So yes, there are furnishings as well. We are doing an HVAC upgrade because of the humidity issues. So we are taking the library, which is currently cooled and heated through a system that also does the classrooms. We are taking them off that system and giving them our own heating and cooling so we can control the space. Upgrading the lighting, not only for efficiency, but also to give it dimming and the brightness that it needs. We're doing updated technology, so we're doing screens. I said we're doing the servers. We are moving the disconnect into the building. FF&E, we're bringing those shelving down. We're making them movable, so when you do have a really large group of people in there, you can take those stacks and move them off to the side. And then there's just the general soft costs, and that goes in with moving expenses, A&E fees, commissioning agents, all of those things that have to happen in order to move the project forward. So I didn't read every single line item, but just so you have an understanding of sort of where all the costs are going to. So that's the end of the presentation. I did bring the full set of drawings and the very large volume of specifications with me for anybody that would like to look through them. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. As far as budget goes, we are still trending on budget with what was presented to the state at the time of the grant application. So our next step tonight, with your approval, would be to get the chairman's signature on the approval of the plan, specs, and estimates, as well as the superintendent. So I'll sit back for questions. Yes.
Can you refresh me, what is the budget?
So we are 3.152 is where we're aiming.
And can you, how is that funded currently? Because this would not be part of the bond, right?
So you wanna take that?
The board has designated 2% that over the past several years towards the project. So we have the full amount to cover the project, and we expect to get about 1.3 back from the state.
And that's this meeting that you're going to get the money for?
It's one of the.
That's why you're going to this meeting?
Yes, it's the approval to be able to go out to bid.
Can you explain that we have to have the money up front before the state gives us the money for it?
Yes, it's reimbursed, so we have to be able to pay the bills as we go and then get reimbursed.
Is there room for, say, large group presentations, like if you had, and I wasn't quite clear like that. Like if you had a whole class that you wanted to bring in for a certain presentation, or?
Yes, let me go back to the floor plan, I apologize for making anybody see it. So what you'll see as you come into the library, right where those first arrows are pointing you, to the north of that is a dedicated library classroom. So if you want to have a classroom size instruction, you can have that there. Then as you come straight down, we have that whole area underneath the clear story, that if you had someone giving a presentation, up on the wall, we actually have 4 monitors that can be used, or you can wheel in a Promethean board or a smart board. The stacks to the north will be movable, so if you have a truly large group, maybe you have a whole staff presentation that you want to give, those could be stacked off to the side, folding chairs could be brought in, and the whole space could be used. So the big piece was, other than the individual areas where true, quiet, or secure work had to happen, like the podcasting or the workroom, everything else was to be open and flexible, so that at any time when you needed to have large or small groups, you have the ability to move the furnishings to do that. Yes.
So I know you said you put in a new HVAC system for this?
Correct.
So how does that work with the existing generator?
So I believe we are still tied to the generator. I can clarify that just to be certain. But essentially, we are not looking to add any load to the building that wasn't already there. All we're doing is saying, instead of having a unit that is heating and cooling this space, as well as 25 other classrooms who might have different demands, so they might have the heat running and it's smoking these guys out, we're able to control this and keep it heated and cooled just for them. And then those classrooms will remain on their own.
Because I know we saw furniture in the photo. Is that similar to the furniture, I mean, that you're going to have? Is that the furniture you're going to have?
Correct.
So
And we actually did a point where we brought some of those pieces into the library and allowed the students to test drive it. The media specialists put little QR codes on them so the kids could scan them and give their real feedback. So we based our purchasing, which we have not purchased yet, but we have based our package based on their feedback.
And how durable are they? I mean, they're gonna need new furniture in 5 years?
Hopefully not. They are all commercial grade. We don't do any residential grade furnishing. So the trade-off to that is sometimes the sit might be a little stiffer than what you're used to at home. I can't guarantee you that vandalism won't destroy the furniture, but from a heavy usage, it is intended for education and high use.
My other question, just one more, is the lighting. I think you said something about dimmers. I mean, are there different grades of light throughout the whole library? I mean, because, you know, there's these lights that we have like this that are.
So it will all be LED. That's the way everything is going now. The code also requires a certain level of control that when the space is in use, you can cut the usage back. So energy code requires us to do that. But it will be zones that if you had a presentation going on, you could leave lights on certain areas or turn them out.
So I know you said the furniture is all easily movable. I assume that means everything's like on casters.
Some things will be on casters, others will be on glides, because I'll tell you the number one thing that goes on a chair is usually the casters.
I was gonna say, we got all new furniture in the Turkey Hill Library a few years ago, and they had the stools with the casters, and the librarian within a year and a half removed them all because they were either coming off or, and I realize this is high school as opposed to elementary school, but the kids like to race on them.
It doesn't change in high school.
So just.
We also look at it from a weight perspective too, that we don't want you to have to call custodial staff to move something, so we want to get it so that it's easy to shift, but we realize that casters have a time and a place, and it's not always best for the students.
Any further questions?
I just have a question about, how much, are you purchasing many soft items?
As far as like lounge chairs?
Chairs and whatnot.
Yes, so you'll see on the bottom, all of those are upholstered pieces. In the center, those are more of your hard plastic polypropylene type pieces.
And was there consideration given to toxicity and chemicals in?
We are not allowed to do those, so we don't do anything that's on the red list. They're all commercial grade. We have to comply with high performance buildings, so we make sure that anything that goes on these pieces are not treated with anything that is not safe for student use.
Thank you.
The floor, what's the floor consist? Is it the same all over, or is it change?
No, it's a change. So in the center is an LVT, which is luxury vinyl tile, so that is an easy cleanable piece. So if students have water bottles, not that we're promoting food in the library, but if they happen to have it at those tables and it falls, it's easily cleanable. The rest of the library is a very durable carpet tile.
Carpet tile meaning removable washable
It's
carpet
like
tile?
this. It's like this, it's exactly like
So if
this.
for some reason there were to be damage, somebody, their power cord sparks and it puts a burn in it, you're able to lift that one up and put a new one down. Depending on how long the floor has been down, that new tile might stand out if there's been high use, but it should be able to be pretty well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Very much appreciate it.
So I do have the logistics of the signatures that I can't leave without today.
Okay,
so-
well, we'll try and get that done with you in a minute. Next is discussion and possible action on the approval of the the design plans. We kind of had a discussion already, I think. So is there anybody else that wants to discuss among ourselves whether or not? Okay, if not, we had a recommendation for approval of this plan.
Yeah, we approved we approved and with the building committee and approved the minutes for that building plan.
Okay.
And so we would just need a motion.
Motion here. All right. Could I have a motion, the Amity Board of Education approves the design plans for the Amity Regional High School Library and Media Center. Someone like to make that motion? Donna?
Can I ask a question
Oh.
first? What happens if we don't get the grant?
We've already awarded the grant.
We already approved.
Oh, we already approved.
Yes.
So now it's just getting this.
These are all the pieces of the process that we have to go
I
through.
thought you were going to get approval for the grant.
No, these are just the requirements now that we have it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Not a problem. Suitor, motion, do we have a second?
Donna was the first and Sudhir.
Donna was the second.
Donna already.
Okay, we're good then. Can you call the roll?
Ms. Bradley? Ms. Cloud Ingram?
Yes.
Ms. Jacquet?
Yes.
Dr. Krunakron?
Yes.
Ms. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Oladelay?
Yes.
Ms. Rebuse?
Yes.
Ms. Schleich?
Yes.
Ms. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries unanimously.
Sign and date.
Provided all this work gets done, all this paperwork's done, when are they gonna start?
So the start date is best case scenario, yeah.
Ideally, it would start in the summer. So essentially, when we go through the February PCR, it can be anywhere between best case 30 days, worst case 90 days to get approval to go out to bid. So from there, we usually do about a 4-week bid period. And then once that's awarded, getting through contracts, and shortly thereafter, we would start what's called pre-construction. So we get through all the submittals and shop drawings and hopefully break ground for the summer.
And you get a minimum of 3 bids, right?
Hopefully more, but yes.
Maybe September?
It seemed like probably, like, the best case sort of started us mid-June. Worst case, it was sort of more like mid-August. So we sort of laid out what our plans would be if it was mid-August and kind of how we will manage that and hope for the best.
Okay.
If it does start in June, would it be ready for?
Okay.
We would still be, we'd still be constructing for at least a couple months.
Do we have an alternate site for our library media center?
Yes, we do.
Very good.
And
All right, number 8, superintendent's report. We all have the written report there. Once again, very comprehensive, very much appreciated.
Yes, and in the spirit of saving some time, I will not belabor this. The couple of things I did want to point out was the counseling department held its first informational night for 9th and 10th grade parents this year. And they were given sort of an overview of the counseling department and the developmental counseling program. But then they were able to choose 3 workshops of their choice. The topics included building resiliency, alternatives to 4-year college, demystifying the college process, dual and concurrent enrollment, building a culture of attendance, graduation requirements, making healthy choices. So really, and those selections came from input that was asked of the parents of what they would be most interested in attending. I just want to recognize Amity Regional High School for being selected as a member of the AP Honor Roll again this year. The program was created in 2023, and we've been recognized every year since that creation. And it recognizes schools whose AP programs are delivering results for students while broadening participation. We had Mr. Tim Klein back in Amity on January 8th for our full day of professional development. But he also spent time working with our reflective intelligence facilitators for day 2 of their training. Those individuals really took their training from that day and turned it around and into some professional learning experiences at the faculty meetings that were conducted today. And so far, feedback from that has been fairly positive. And I think that's good enough for now. We can read the rest of the report later.
Thank you, very much appreciated. Next, number 10, Superintendent's Mid-Year Review. I am not going to provide any special information in the chairman's report, so we can move on to this area with the one exception that we'll be meeting next week, 7 days from now. That's our regular meeting for the month of February. And in the executive session, we'll invite Dr. Byers for part of the session, and then we'll take some time to discuss among ourselves. The unfortunate thing is the people who are viewing cannot be viewing an executive session, so we'll say good night to you all and congratulations, Autumn. You're looking great.
Thank you.
And then I hope you're feeling better. And,
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing good.
Very good.
Thank you for asking.
All right, so with that, we have a motion to go into executive session. Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will come back after this. There's supposed to be a public comment session, which it doesn't appear like there's anybody here to do that at this particular point, so.
Mr. Davis, does the motion have to include an invitation for Dr. Byers?
It was.
I didn't hear it, I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha.